Hello everyone and welcome to part 3 of our video series, Creating a Games Character Using the Entertainment Creation Suite. Again, with us we have Dave Bentley with us, and we're going to let Dave continue working in Sketchbook Designer. Now, what we've done in the background, we've had some meetings so that we can start, even dialing in closer to get our character. And so what I'm going to do at this point is hand this off to Dave, and he's going to start explaining the next couple steps here as we start getting to the point where we have the character finally, proportionally nailed down, and we can really start moving towards the final renders. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay. So we like these silhouettes, but we decided that we want to go with somewhere in between the silhouettes that we've got, especially the top one and the one on the left. And so I'm just going through, I want to show a couple of features, I guess, of Sketchbook Designer. One is that I can change the background color simply by going into the attributes of the layer. And we decided we didn't want the blue background. It wasn't helping. We want to just go back to a medium gray. So I'm going to come in and recreate a whole new silhouette, but based loosely on the silhouettes that I've already got in the scene. Somewhere in between, something like this first guy on the left. And this time I'm going to try to push it a little bit closer to the final Sven character, and we'll see what we come up with. So, same technique. I'm focusing on the silhouette, but this time knowing that I've already got my design direction, I can be a little more careful about how I draw the silhouette in, because I probably want to use this silhouette as an underlay for my paint when I come up with the colors and the final textures. So, spend a little bit of time making sure that my proportions feel right, the hands feel right, the belt's where it should be. I know I've got things like elbow pads, and eventually I'll have this blaster on my hand, but right now I just want to make sure the fingers feel like the right size. And let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think our one character there was just a little on the chunky side.
A little chunky. He was happy, but we're moving on from that, yes. So I've kind of placed the jetpack there. In the background, we've got this little pocket on his boot. I'm not quite sure what he's got in there, but it's important. It tells a little bit about who he is. Going back in and deciding what he looks like. And, there still will be another revision possibly, but this one hopefully is going to nail who the character is in general. So try to spend a little bit of time making sure that he looks interesting. We decided his character was too serious before, so this is a little bit more, what would he be, silly? I'm not sure. Trying to go back to his design, his core design direction, and look at what he might look like. What's going to make him sympathetic.
So we're actually capturing what kind of emotion, because it's a game, we don't necessarily have any facial animation at this point, right?
Right.
Or we know that the face isn't going to move, but we need to have a decent pose, right? That's not too funny, not too serious, but a good balance.
He's got to be a decent neutral pose, and that's interesting for him because in this game he's not going to be, he's not going to have any facial animation. That's in the design docs we realized that, and so we've got to come up with a face that is interesting, sympathetic, and yet doesn't fall off the map here. So
while you're starting to block or sketch more of this character in around the silhouette, you're blocking in more of the curves, right, with the sketch lines. What kind of advice can you give the students as they're working on this project as being part of a team? And that, there's a lot of people involved in a game, right? So what can you tell them if they're in this portion of the design where they're doing this? What kind of advice can you give them around, getting good results and working as a team?
I would say most important is not to fall in love with your own work, and be like completely open to criticism. In fact, invite it, and ask others for their opinion. Does this feel like the character we want in our game? And they might say, I wasn't thinking that. And you know what? You might have to start over. But you know what? If your own designs are precious to you, you're going to get your feelings hurt, and it's going to cause problems in the whole game. You're not going to have a really nice design. It's perfectly okay. You can be an incredible designer and make stupid designs. It's okay. So I wouldn't worry so much about that. And like I came back here, I'm looking at this head, and like, it's just not the right proportion. So it's not a big deal to just select it with a lasso, scale it a little bit, And I know because I've done this that I'm still not entirely happy with that head, but we're going to move on from now and We'll come back in and maybe play with that a little bit.
So give the students an overview of what we're going to see in the next video.
Okay, so we're going to start painting this up. And as we kind of get this to a design stage where I can present this for a final design approval, when I get that approval, I'm going to come back in and do some really tight lines using the curves in Sketchbook Designer and really nail it down. Now, one of the things I want to mention here that's a technical thing that you can do in Sketchbook Designer, which is really neat, is using preserved transparency. So because I silhouetted out my design, I can click this button that's kind of up right underneath the toolbars to the right, and that button up there is going to preserve any transparency. You can see that I can only paint where there's paint in my scene. That's going to allow me to very, very quickly run through and paint different materials onto this this design, and it just is a wonderful way to paint. I'm only still using one layer for my base paint. It's underneath the lines, but it really is a fun way to quickly check different colors, different materials, and it's a great way to paint.
Awesome. Well, we'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.